The current energies of consciousness in the creation are so heightened as to create a stir in some, if not many, and fear in many, if not most. Our purpose here on earth at this time can be felt, or may be deeply felt, in some viscerally. The question then is, what can we do? How do we participate in this monumental shift we thought we knew to be reality? We watch, we wait. When we watch, we see the collective emotional reaction, even overreaction, to any given event. The more we wait as we watch and collect our thoughts and observations, the more we learn, question, and discuss. From whence did this occur? Who or what is driving this event? To what ends? Is it funded? Who is the mouthpiece for the overall public sentiment? So much of the reactivity is staged and or funded. The event inciting the reactivity may be intentionally driven as well, so there is a springboard for reactivity, division, and chaos. Our social compact does not pick up placards and join protests out of reactivity to an event or occurrence. We stand solidly together in gathering our thoughts, our knowledge base, our divine connection, and our intellectual resources to assess and address the event and related issues at hand. Our guide, always, is our innate intuition and trust in our divine purpose and guidance. It is this, our I am presence, that is our home, our reside ends, our springboard to what we deem as appropriate action. May we always be guided and protected through our daily lives and actions to do the bidding of our precious God-given spirit that knows all and never forgets purpose and this journey we each are on. Let it be so, and so it is.
I'm the court clerk for Article 3, Amendment 7, Article 7, Civilian Common Law Court of Record. One Supreme Court claiming original jurisdiction on Oregon. Now, people tend to think, how can that be? Well, all power is inherent in the people, provided you know what you're doing and you do it properly. So we read the documents, which is the United States of America's Constitution and Oregon's Constitution, circa 1859. And after reading those, we have come to the conclusion that you have to have something to define all of those words properly. So then we found there was a dictionary called Bouvier's, 6th edition law dictionary in 2 volumes, a very thick, well-crafted book, made in 1856 by the order of Congress, because they didn't have a dictionary to define all of the words in all of the constitutions. And there was like 32 states then, and the United States. And the United States of America, and they all had to have a constitution, and all those constitutions had to function properly together. And they did. And they did that in 1859 for Oregon. So we know as of 1859 on Oregon, we had a legitimate, properly put together, prior to the war of Northern invasion, for one, or the war of free the slaves of another, and the war of states' rights, and the war between the factions of the Federal and the war between the factions of the Confederation. And that whole thing went on, and I think it was a money and a power grab, and a lot of people agree. But as of 1859, when Oregon became a state, we actually had and were keeping a constitution. And the United States was still the United States with the 10-mile square, four forts, ports, and needful buildings, and all of the territories. They had forts and territories from the Mississippi all the way to the Pacific Northwest. Then Oregon became the 33rd state. So at that time, we had on Oregon a constitutional Republican form of government. There had not yet been the coup of 1861 in Washington, District of Columbia, perpetrated by Lincoln and perpetuated by Grant and all of those since. And if you ever notice the names of all of the counties, not all the counties, most of the counties, many of the counties on Oregon, Sherman, Grant, Union, Crook, generals on the Union side. But the Union was no longer a union. The Union was now federal. And they were forcing the states to fall in line with the federal. But first they had to win over the South again. And after they won over the South, they never reconvened the United States of America or the United States of Washington, District of Columbia. They went on as a war power. They went on as a martial law labor code. And then they eventually passed FEMA. But we have not had a constitutional Republican form of government on Oregon since November 8th, 1910, and we haven't had it on the United States and its territories, forts, ports, and needful buildings since 1861. And none of the other states have reconstituted with Article 1, Section 1, except Oregon. The other states talk about doing lots of stuff, but they haven't done that yet. So I wrote some words up and I want to read some of them. Do you have a province? Do you have a provenance? Or is there a province? So do you have a provenance? Do you know where you came from? Do you know who you are? Are you aware of your circumstances? And are you aware of your status? Provenance. What do you have to prove who you are? Well, recently I said, I have the Vroman book. I know where I came from on my father's side back to 1664. And I was ridiculed as being a bloodlinist or whatever that happens to be. It's just one of those facts. That's when the Romans came here. I'm not talking about when anybody else came here, just when the Romans came here. I know what we have done. And one of the things that we have done is my oldest daughter, she's dead now. COVID, I think they called it. Blood clots in the legs, whatever it was, she had those and she died. But in any case, she said to me, Dad, so we really came over here then and we really had relatives that fought in the revolution? Yeah. Well, if that's the case, why don't you get the documentation so that I can join the DAR, the Daughters of the American Republic? So many years ago, this has a date, I'm sure. Yeah, 2006. So many years ago, I did the effort, and it is a gargantuan task, and there's lots of help, and the ladies that are running it know what they're doing. And I obtained all the documentation and proved the eligibility of the claim that the females on the Roman side are eligible for Daughters of the American Revolution. Now that is what? Valued as what, where? It doesn't have an intrinsic value. And it's not meant to be. But it does give you an idea of your provenance, where you came from and where you're going and what you're doing. Then there's province. We got the Bouvier Dictionary, wonderful book. And I wasn't even looking for this when I got on this page, but the book is so interesting to me that when I look up something, then I read a half a page above and a half a page below, and I may turn a page. And one of the things I found was province, and I wasn't looking for province, but it led to a really interesting discovery. And this is a definition in Bouvier's. This is what the laws of the United States of America and Oregon mean when they say province. And it is the province of the court to judge of the law and that of the jury to decide on the facts. Court to judge of the law. Not a judge to do that, but a court. 3 tribunals and a clerk. They decide what the law is. And the jury decides on the facts. And in law and equity, if the jury takes a case in law and finds that they cannot do justice, find remedy, cure the issue in law, they can move it to equity. And in equity, they can find a remedy. So our court, our Article 3 court on Oregon, is a civilian common law court of record. Now, why does it have to be a civilian common law court of record? Why can't it just be a court of record? Well, if you do not declare civilian and you do not know about ex parte Milligan and you don't understand what you need to do to qualify, you will be another almost court. You will be another de facto court. You will be, in fact, simulating, not doing, but simulating. And we don't simulate. We actually do. We do it in a civilian common law court of record. And we know we're doing it that way because we have the provenance of our history. We know by this document, all of them that I have stacked around me here, that as long as the law isn't coming out of a barrel of a gun, and the law is coming at us from what is written and substantiated and supported, as long as that's going on, we're just fine. When they break through the door and they stick a gun at you, well then, the law's gone, man. You're in it. It's like the guys that they teach how to be snipers, and they're good at it, and they can kill other people and snipers from really far off and with extreme precision, and they count them. And we've trained lots and lots and lots of people like that. How much effort and thought do you think goes into it when they wind up in a position that they've been trained to be in, and they have a target to take out? How much effort do you think it is for them to take out one more? 397, and each one of them was a good kill. This one looks good too. Squeeze it off. We have people like out there. They're not like us. They've got their bones, as the mob likes to say. And there's a lot to be said for, is the mob and the CIA and the FBI all just an interchange? Looks like it. In any case, we're back to Article 3. So I have this document that I've been carrying around for years. It's a facsimile of the Constitution of the United States. A transcript, if you will. On page 5, it says, Article 3, the judicial powers of the United States. Now, the United States is a 10-mile square known as Washington District of Columbia, forts, ports, and needful buildings, and territories. That's the United States. So the judicial power of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court. Now, small o, small s, capital C. So it's just identifying what kind of court it is. It's not naming it SCOTUS. It says in one Supreme Court and in such inferior courts as the Congress may from time to time ordain and establish. So we have Article 3 and we have Article 1 courts. The judges, both of the Supreme and inferior courts. So we have more than one Supreme and more than one inferior. They're telling us so because there has judges and a multiple number of Supreme and a multiple number of inferior courts. And they shall hold their office, that's the judges, during good behavior. I wonder if it's written down someplace. I'm sure it is, what you do when you have bad behavior. Like Oregon sheriffs, we know that if they do not do all that is required of them, that they're supposed to be fired by the county commissioners. We'll soon find out on that one. Anyhow, back to judges. They shall hold their office during good behavior and shall at times receive for their service a compensation which shall not be diminished during their constituence in the office. Section 2. Now, Section 2 is really great. You can see here, probably can't, but my Section 2, to figure it out, I had to go through one of these and mark out with the pencil everything that didn't fit, and what was left I could work with. So it says the judicial power, and it's a small j and capital P, shall be extended to all cases with a capital C in law and equity. And we do law and equity. Arising under the Constitution, the laws of the United States, and treaties made or which shall be made under their authority, to all cases affecting ambassadors and other public ministers and consuls, to all cases of admiralty and maritime jurisdiction with the capital J. That's where the bar attorneys and Article 7 amended wants to put men and women in with commerce, make you an all caps version of your name and treat you like a business. We're not here for business. We're here for a government, for our peace, safety, and happiness. We are not your cash cow. Yeah. To controversies to which the United States, and we know where the United States is, shall be a party. To controversies between two or more states, Oregon and California, or Minnesota and Maine, or between a state and the citizens of another state, and between citizens of different states, and between citizens of all of the same state claiming lands under grants of different states, and between a state or the citizens thereof and foreign states, citizens or subjects. The only place where the body, mind, spirit, flesh, blood, man or woman can go to find remedy against the state, any state, the state of or city or county or governance entity, the state, city hall. The only place you can find remedy against that group is in an Article 3 court where you are guaranteed to be a man or a woman. They do not have jurisdiction over you. Only if you give it away because you're ignorant. Like our sheriffs are ignorant. They say, I didn't know that. They don't understand the Constitution, but they took an oath to it. And they're upholding that oath while they're out in the street breaking their oath. And they don't know it. They don't want to learn. And they think I'm bothered to them. Okay. In all cases affecting ambassadors, we're not ambassadors. Other public ministers and consuls, we could be that. And those in which a state shall be a party. The Supreme Court shall have original jurisdiction, and that's small s, not capital S, not SCOTUS. Each state has a Supreme Court, and it must claim original jurisdiction. If it doesn't have it. And if it claims it, they have to support the claim. These folks cannot support any claim because they're bogus. They have no facts to back up their claims. The Supreme Court shall have original jurisdiction in all other cases before mentioned. The Supreme Court, small s again, shall have appellate jurisdiction, both as to law and fact. Now, wait a minute. Only a verdict can make the decision on fact. That's why we have the Seventh Amendment. A little correction of Article 3. With such exceptions and under such conditions and regulations as Congress shall make. And it was made. The trial of all crimes except in cases of impeachment. So that's the only one that's accepted. Due process is a crime. When you fail to provide due process that you took an oath to provide, when you fail, then you did a crime. And that shall be by jury. And such trial shall be held in the state where the said citizens shall have been, where the state said crimes shall have been committed. Okay? So if it was done on Oregon, then it needs to be tried on Oregon. Oregon has that one Supreme Court that claimed original jurisdiction. We have it, Article 3. Original jurisdiction, that's Amendment 7. No, that's Article 7. And then Amendment 7 corrects Article 3 in suits in common law, where the value is over $20, then a court will decide, and a jury will decide, and there will be a verdict, and it'll have no appeal in fact. That doesn't mean that the folks in Salem get to look it over in an appellate court. There is no appellate court. That's an invention of the Admiralty Court. In suits in common law, we, you and I, the members of the body politic, in suits in common law, make those decisions. And they're not to be second guessed by attorneys in Salem. And the Congress shall have the power to declare the punishment for treason, but no attainder of treason shall work corruption of blood or forfeiture except during the life of the person attainted. So there we are. We understand what province is. That's Article 3, and we read Article 3 completely. And the folks on Oregon that I'm with in the Assembly have completed Article 3, just like we have completed Article 1, Section 1. We complete sections of the work that is required in these constitutions to obtain what needs to be done. What needs to be done is to remove the de facto Article 7 amended from Salem and from all the courthouses and return to common law, return to the people not being the cash cow, return to a constitutional Republican form of government. We are not a democracy. That has to be corrected. And we need the sheriffs to do it. But the sheriffs have to understand what the hell the function is. Now, if they understand the function and they've joined the de facto and they're going to stay there, then they are sheriffs for commerce. They're sheriffs for the bogus governance out of Salem. That's who they are. We have to recognize it and they have to recognize it. But you can't pretend it's something else. That's what it is. You either are or you are not. You cannot ride these two horses with one ass at the same time. You can perform your functions for commerce and admiralty and law and equity. They're not the same. You shall not treat men and women like chattel. We are not in commerce. We are not looking for governance. We are looking for government. You don't pull an old lady off to the side of the road and handcuff her and give her a hard time because she doesn't want to put your plates on her car. That's not your province. Stay the hell away from that and go catch bad guys. Or quit. Take a proper oath. Yes. Our province is clear. In the jurisdiction of man against the state, the only court remedy can be found is Article 3, and we went to the trouble to make one. You think after 8 years we're going to back off? They broke the Oregon Constitution on purpose. They knew what they were doing, and they did it. Nobody alive today perpetrated that. That's not the point. The point is they did it, and you guys are still honoring it. If you honor fraud, then you are in dishonor. That's pretty simple, don't you think? I think so. Peace, safety, and happiness secure in the person and in the home and the papers of the body, mind, spirit, flesh, blood, soul, the bone of the body and the mind and the entire put together of people, men and women. That's all there is with our progeny on the land and soil. We are not the all caps version of our names, and we're not playing that game with you. We are no longer deceived, and we will not abide. So, have you guys looked up Smedley, by the way? Yeah, Smedley's quite a guy. You ought to look him up. I have quiet title coming up real soon in Washington County. I'm going to get the paperwork together and get it out here and make another recording on quiet title and just exactly who owns what on Oregon. And I yield.
They do not want to let go of this. They do not intend on losing here. And we do not intend giving it back to them.
And then the bullets started flying. Then he jumps out of the car, and he's got both his hands up. And he got out of the car, and he had his hands in the air. He's like, "Just shoot me then. This is what you want, to shoot me." And they did. They shot him dead. With his hands in the air, and I saw it. I swear to God. He was just walking with his hands in the air. And they shot him. And they shot him dead, and then after he was down on the ground, they shot him 3 more times.